Radio Philippines Network, Radyo Ronda, DZKI-IRIGA, member kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
CNN Philippines Hour sa RPN-DZKI-IRIGA alas 6 hasta alas 7 ng manggi, Lunes hanggang Biyernes. CNN Philippines Hour.
Let's dig deeper into this. Our George Quiles, who's been trading Lacson, joins us from General Santos City. George, what is the implication of this resignation on his campaign?
Opie, after seeking advice from COMELEC, Lacson says his resignation from Partido Reforma has no impact on his candidacy. This means Lacson will still run for president, now as an independent. He says he is not discouraged or frustrated, but more driven to continue the campaign. It was a typical campaign morning for presidential candidate Senator Panfilo Lacson in General Santos City. He met with fishermen at the port, a courtesy visit to the mayor, and even got an endorsement from Maranao vendors at the public market. But after these activities, he dropped a major bombshell.
Today, I officially announce my resignation as chairman and member of Partido ng Demokratikong Reforma, which effectively makes me an independent candidate for the presidency in the upcoming May 2022 elections. Yesterday, I was informed by the party president, former Speaker Pantaleon Bebot Alvarez, that their slate in Davao del Norte, led by Party Secretary General and Provincial Governor Edwin Hubahib, has decided to endorse another presidential candidate.
Partido Reforma President and former House Speaker Pantaleon Alvarez was among those who convinced Lacson to join the party, which even made him its chairman. Alvarez was present in the Lacson Soto Proclamation rally in Cavite and hosted a duo in his home province, Davao del Norte, only to drop Lacson almost a month and a half left before the polls.
Matagal na nila ko inabandon. Noong nag-start yung campaign period, they were no longer present on the ground. Girls, I'll tell you honestly, yung fans na pumapasok sa akin, sariling sikap.
I was not expecting it, but perhaps that would be the best thing to do as far as my presidential candidate is concerned.
Lacson says he has no ill feelings towards Alvarez and the rest of the Partido Reforma members in Davao del Norte, but he says their explanation for ditching him for another candidate is unacceptable.
With or without party affiliation, I am not leaving you behind. I assure you that I will be your leader and supporter in our shared convictions and aspirations. Magkakasama pa rin tayo sa laban na ito. Tulad ng paulit-ulit kong sinasabi, tuloy ang laban hanggang sa dulo.
We are also monitoring the situation in the National Unity Party or NUP. NUP Chairman, former Interior Secretary Ronnie Puno runs the Lacson Soto campaign. But just this afternoon, NUP openly endorsed Bongbong Marcos. Lacson says as far as Puno is concerned, he received assurance that Puno will stay with him since this is the first time that Puno's family has agreed on supporting a single candidate. We also got a word from Puno that he is currently on leave from NUP, and the developments today caught him by surprise. Puno says he will speak with Lacson as soon as possible to know his plans. Pia.
Talk about seismic shifts, huh, George? Well, any word, George, from the senatorial candidates of Partido Reforma?
As for Dr. Mingita Padilla, she says she has yet to speak with Senator Lacson, but she assures the senator of her continued support because they are old friends and share similar advocacies. Former PNP Chief Guillermo Eleazar says he will wait for the official party action. Partido Reforma adopted Eleazar and became a last-minute substitute for as a senatorial candidate. Former Congressman Monsur del Rosario, as you mentioned earlier, has already joined Alvarez in backing Vice President Leni Robredo's presidential bid. Back to you.
George Cahilas there reporting live. As far as the Commission on Elections is concerned, Lacson will remain affiliated with Partido Reforma. No revisions to the official May 9 ballot as well. The party acronym PDR will remain printed beside Lacson's name. Common Commissioner George Garcia says the toss-up is political in nature and no formal substitution will be accepted either.
As far as the Comelec is concerned, hindi siya independent candidate. Whatever change in your affiliation after the filing of the candidacy, after the period, doesn't matter. What will be the basis always of determining your party is your party at the time of the filing of the candidacy.
Lacson, along with running mate Senate President Tito Soto, filed his COC as president of Partido Reforma October 6th last year. Now, for the first time ever, Vice President Leni Robredo takes her campaign to the bailiwick of President Duterte, the Davao region, and there she gets a much-needed boost to her presidential run. Our Anjo Alimario joins us from Tagum City in Davao del Norte. Anjo, why did Partido Reforma leaders abandon Ping Lacson?
A hard choice but had to be made, Pia. That sums up this twist that may crucially affect the result of the coming election. Partido Reforma President and Davao del Norte Representative Pantaleon Alvarez has shifted focus or support from Panfilo Lacson to Leni Robredo, but Alvarez clarifies that the fight for good governance is not about color. He and his party are reformist, and that for that reason, they have chosen the vice president. It was not too long ago when presidential candidate Senator Panfilo Lacson took the helm of the Partido para sa Demokratikong Reforma. But with only 46 days to go before the presidential elections, party leader Pantaleon Alvarez ends up backing another candidate.
We need a leader. And for the 2022 presidential elections, given all these considerations, and the crisis we have to overcome, that leader is a woman. Her name is Leni Robredo.
Alvarez admits Lacson is the most qualified to be president. But for him, only two candidates have pulled away from the pack, Robredo and survey frontrunner former Senator Bongbong Marcos. Robredo's campaign to gain significant traction, he adds. The former House Speaker says he did say hurtful things against the Vice President in the past.
Humihingi ako ng tawad, ma'am.
Una-una, Speaker, you do not need to apologize. Kasi over the course of our service naman to the country, mayroong mga bagay na hindi talaga pagkakasundoan.
Alvarez even mulled filing an impeachment complaint against Robredo. He says he did that to protect the president. Davao del Norte Governor Edwin Hubahib also backs Robredo. In 2016, she lost miserably in the Davao region, failing to win a single province. Robredo says this is a big boost to get support in this part of Davao.
Mas maglalakas loob yung ibang local officials to follow suit. Kasi ano naman to ganun naman talaga yung laban. Pag nagsisimula ka na medyo dehado, it takes a lot of courage to come out in the open.
Via this morning, Robredo attended a grand rally in Digo City in Davao del Sur where around 6,000 supporters showed up. But again, is this enough to paint Davao pink? Back to you.
Anjo, there have been some local politicians pushing for a Rosa, a Robredo and Davao Mayor Sara Duterte tandem, or at least, on the day of voting. How is Leni Robredo taking that?
Well, Vice President Leni Robredo says she respects that decision, that move of her supporters backing her in another vice presidential candidate. But it's clear to her from day one that her vice president is Senator Francis Pangilinan. Pia.
Anjo Alimario there reporting from Tagum City in Davao del Norte. Hoping Lacson's resignation from his party, Partido Reforma, prompts other members to follow suit. The chairman of the party's Cavite chapter, Rafael Rodriguez, along with the district, municipal, and city chairman, also resigned from their posts. They reaffirmed their support for Lacson, who hails from the province. Former Representative Ashley Asadillo, the party spokesman, made the same decision to quit, saying he will continue to support Lacson as his official spokesperson. Meanwhile, another presidential candidate, Isko Moreno, is happy about Lacson's decision to continue his campaign. Senator Manny Pacquiao says he will meet with Lacson and Senator Tito Sotto when they all return to Manila. Pacquiao earlier said he has a, quote, gentleman's agreement, unquote, with Lacson and Sotto. Under that agreement, the weaker candidate, based on surveys, will support the stronger bet. It is unclear, however, if the support will mean withdrawal from the presidential race.
Tuloy naman ang laban ni Senator Ping tsaka ni Tito Sen. Nakausap ko sila. At kung ano mang desisyon nila, ako naman una makakalam nun eh. Kasi may ano naman kami. May maganda naman yung pag-uusap namin at isa lang kami. Abangan nyo na lang, mag-uusap muna kami.
Si Senator Ping Lacson is an asset of our country. Mas maraming magagaling na kandidato katulad ni Senator Ping Lacson, mas maraming opsyon ang mga kababayan natin Pilipino. I'm happy that Senator Lacson continue to participate in the campaign as a candidate for president kasi maganda rin siyang opsyon ng ating mga kababayang Pilipino.
Moving on, President Duterte and presidential candidate Bongbong Marcos met over the weekend. Senator Bongo, as well as Marcos's campaign, confirmed this. Go says the two had a productive meeting where Mr. Duterte shared his experiences as president with Marcos. Go adds the meeting was one of the factors that pushed the ruling party, PDP Laban, to endorse Marcos last Monday. But the senator could not say whether this means Marcos is President Duterte's anointed one. Back in November, Mr. Duterte described Marcos as a weak leader and a spoiled child. More stories next. Less than 2 months before the Filipino votes, the poll body says it will resolve all pending cases involving presidential candidate Bongbong Marcos by April. And after 2 years, road authorities allow provincial buses on EDSA for a 2-week dry run. Stay with us here on Newsnight. Welcome back to Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. I'm Pia Hontiveros. COMELEC is facing several issues just 46 days before the Filipino votes, among them pending cases against some candidates, an alleged data security breach involving Smartmatic, and doubts about the poll body's transparency and integrity. Elisa Lopez joins us to give us an update. Mel, let's begin with the pending cases before COMELEC. When does the poll body plan to resolve them?
That's right, Pia. Chairman Saidamen Pangarungan has set a deadline to resolve all pending cases related to candidates in the May 9 elections. These include 6 petitions against Bongbong Marcos's candidacy, as well as the rift within President Duterte's party, PDP Laban.
The consolidated cases and as well as the case with the motion for reconsideration will be decided before the election. Maybe the earliest will be the 2nd week of April, the latest will be the 3rd week of April.
Pending since September 2021 is the case filed by the PDP Laban wing led by Alfonso Cusi, asking COMELEC to declare his faction as legitimate against the other wing led by Senator Manny Pacquiao. Meanwhile, 5 petitions seeking to kick Marcos out of the presidential race, earlier denied by COMELEC's 2 divisions, are on appeal before the Anbank since January. One disqualification case by the group Pudno nga Ilocano is unresolved before the former 2nd Division, composed of Commissioners Socorro Inting and Ray Bulay. These are based on Marcos found guilty for not filing income tax returns for 4 years. The commission allows members of political parties and poll watchdogs to open random packs from 42 million ballots printed and verified since January to check if these are of good quality and not pre-shaded. Our cameras were not allowed to record the sampling process within close range given security constraints. The poll body was earlier criticized for printing ballots without witnesses. COMELEC has said it only restricted access in the past 2 months due to COVID-19 concerns, but has opened the process this March with lower infections. COMELEC is also taking action on the alleged security breach involving technology provider Smartmatic. Pangarungan insists COMELEC has not been hacked but ordered poll officials to coordinate with the National Bureau of Investigation regarding the probe. Pangarungan gave a March 29 deadline to find out details of the supposed breach and ordered COMELEC's law department to review its existing contract with Smartmatic given this incident. Smartmatic has denied allegations of a breach, adding it does not hold crucial data that will affect the outcome of the May polls. COMELEC officials ended the day by signing what they call an anti-EPAL agreement with officials of DSWD and DILG to crack down against politicians who wrongly take credit for the delivery of social services. Meanwhile, the poll body hopes to resolve all pending cases so that they can instead focus on the final preparations for voting day. Back to you, Pia.
Mel, the local campaign period begins tomorrow. What are we expecting?
That's right, Pia. Expect the next 45 days beginning Friday to be action-packed. There are 18,023 local positions up for grabs. That ranges from district representative, governor, mayor, down to councilor nationwide. Now, 845 of them can already rest easy. They are now sure winners because they are running unopposed. Meanwhile, Commissioner Garcia of COMELEC reminds candidates and political parties to always adhere or observe minimum health protocols during campaign sorties. That includes wearing of masks so that these events will not become super spreaders of COVID-19. Pia.
Lisa Lopez there reporting live from COMELEC's headquarters in Manila. Back to the campaign trail, Manila Mayor Isko Moreno in Bulacan, where he said it may not be practical to ban contractualization completely. Ending the labor practice was one of President Duterte's campaign promises in 2016. Former Malacanang,
makapagtrabaho ka muna, may mapagharimunan muna kayo sa pamilya, tapos maganda na buhay, umuunlad na negosyo. Then I'll try to make sense with businessmen na unti-unti nang bigyan ng kapanatagan ang mga empleyado na magkaroon ng permanent na hanap buhay. For the meantime, it's always about survival.
Former Malacanang spokesperson Ernie Abella says his presidential campaign is gaining ground thanks, he says, to social media influencers. Pulse Asia's latest voter preference survey shows, however, Abella scored 0.
We don't meet everybody, but we meet, let's say, with yung mga yung may mga influencers na may mga networks, and doon sila bumubukas.
Labor leader Leody de Guzman and his running mate Walden Bello got a warm welcome after encountering some supporters of Vice President Leni Robredo in Iloilo on Wednesday. Tomorrow, presidential candidates will again gather on one stage for an election forum organized by the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines and Jesuit Communications. Moderated by Rico Hizon and Bernadette Sembrano, Usapang Halalan aims to dig deep into the candidates' positions and conviction on issues where politics and religion intersect. This will be live streamed on our official YouTube channel at 6 in the evening and will be broadcast at 10 p.m. only here on CNN Philippines. Authorities finally giving the green light for the return of provincial buses on EDSA after 2 years. Trips will initially run for 2 weeks to check if these will help ease traffic in Metro Manila. Tristan Odalo reports other solutions are on the table.
The government is lifting the ban on the entry of provincial buses on EDSA and other major thoroughfares beginning Thursday evening. The window hours for provincial buses will be from 10 in the evening to 5 in the morning daily.
Ito po ay trial period lang. Binigyan po tayo ng 2 weeks ng DOTR at LTFRB para mag-conduct po ng dry run.
Despite limited hours, some provincial bus companies welcome this development 2 years since their operations were affected in the capital region due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
We're expecting in the next couple of weeks, especially coming in Holy Week and sa elections, medyo mag-open pa ng mga window times for us.
The bus company says they also need time to recondition their fleet ahead of the expected influx of passengers.
So what we're trying to do is we're trying to recondition all our fleet, our buses, slowly din, para kahit paano na maintain na maayos yung mga buses.
The MMDA is also reviewing proposals to reduce congestion. The pre-pandemic volume of vehicles in major thoroughfares was at 405,000 on a daily basis. Now it's averaging 370,000 to 390,000 daily.
Number coding, lahat po nag-agree na kailangan talagang magbawas ng bilang ng sasakyan. Ibalik yung truck ban or at the very least, maglagay lang po ng window period.
The MMDA is also considering adjusting government work and transactions 1 hour earlier. Some commuters say traffic has worsened since NCR was placed under Alert Level 1.
Madali makanap ng jeep, ang problema lang, mabagal lang takbo.
Ngayong Level 1 po, mas humirap. Bumalik yung traffic, crowded na yung sasakyan, punuan.
The MMDA adds it may also take days or weeks before they can decide on the number coding scheme and truck ban. Also part of the long-term plans are the construction of EDSA elevated walkway and the bike lane project subject to availability of funds. Tristan Odalo, CNN Philippines.
Back to office order for the business process outsourcing sector takes effect in a week's time. Now, this is unsettling to many businesses and employees who want to keep the status quo of hybrid work. And as Lois Calderon reports, some are now thinking of quitting their jobs if they will be forced to report to the office.
The pandemic has forced Lara Melencio to juggle time as mom and a worker for a local call center, all within the safety of her home. She says it's possible to have the best of both worlds, watching her infant grow while still giving her job 100%.
So kahit mga 15-minute break lang yan, yung konting time na nasispend mo with your baby, with your family, okay din siya.
The government's return to work order that covers all BPO workers by April 1st could change all that.
May baby ako, pag na-traffic ako, 30 minutes na agad yan. So that would take 1 hour of my life.
Already, nearly 200 workers out of 1,400 members of the Alliance of Call Center Workers are contemplating leaving the industry and finding jobs elsewhere. Based on the group's data, over 1 million BPO workers currently have work-from-home arrangements.
It's not really mass resign as in protesta. Hindi magiging madali sa kanila yung transition to work on site.
Finance Secretary Carlos Dominguez clarifies BPO employers have the prerogative to continue work-from-home arrangements, but they will lose tax incentives. Dominguez heads the board that reviews tax perks for economic zones to which BPO companies belong since they are dollar earners. Militant group Bukluran ng Manggagawang Pilipino and party list groups Akbayan and Sanlakas believe the Finance Department has overstepped its bounds.
If it ain't broke, why fix it? Walang ibang madidescribe to kundi isang blackmail. And I even doubt that it is for the benefit of the MSMEs.
When they are working from home, they buy from their suke, from the palengke. That's an MSME. If we're in Eastwood, we're buying from big businesses.
The finance chief has a rejoinder: read the law. BPO employers have yet to respond to CNN Philippines' request for comment. Both sides have good intentions. From government, on-site work could have a ripple effect on the economy as BPOs renew lease contracts with the property sector, and peripheral businesses like restaurants, cafes, and flats could benefit from that.
From workers' side, working from home means less crowded roads and greater productivity. Work-life balance, that is. Balancing interests within the bounds of law is a tough job. Lois Calderon, CNN Philippines.
The IT and Business Process Association of Philippines has refused to comment on the matter. When we return on Newsnight, a member of global superstar BTS catches COVID-19 ahead of their Las Vegas concert next month, while exciting things await Stranger Things fans next month. While exciting things await Stranger Things fans, a look at the characters joining the much-awaited fourth season next. You're watching CNN Philippines. Welcome back to Newsnight. I'm Pia Hontiveros. And K-pop J-Hope of BTS has caught COVID-19 after getting tested for the virus yesterday and at home. It adds J-Hope plans to participate in scheduled events next month. BTS is set to hold 4 Las Vegas shows in April. Of the 7 members, only Jungkook has not ever contracted COVID-19. And here's a look at the final season of sci-fi Netflix hit Stranger Things. Photographs from the show were just released with new characters like Eddie and Argyle making an appearance, as well as series favorites Mike and Eleven, who are together again. Volume 1 of Season 4 will be out on May 27th, Volume 2 on July 1st. And that is it for tonight. Join me again on news.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pia Hontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. Headlines.
This program is brought to you by This program is rated
If the Philippines is the 4th most cyber-attacked country in the world, what does this say about the integrity of our automated election system? A Kaspersky Security Network report says web threat attempts on government, including financial institutions and private sector organizations, media among them, have surged by more than 400%. And that's just since 2017, when the country ranked only 30th in the most attacked list. Last year alone, there were 50 million web threat attempts. Elections are 2 months away. Should we be worried? And what can we do? Good evening. This is a special episode of Politics as Usual, your weekly political appointment fix. I'm Pia Hontiveros, and with me is my guest co-anchor for tonight, Paolo Abrera, who is an avid tech observer and is a co-anchor on New Day. Paolo, thank you so much for being here and for agreeing to doing the night shift.
Well, thank you, Pia. I'm really quite excited about being here tonight. I'm quite excited about tonight's discussion. Good evening to everybody. I think what's important here is that we realize that technology is now such an indispensable part of our daily lives, and we have to be aware of how big an influence it has on the upcoming election process, from influencing our decisions and opinions on candidates via legitimate information as well as disinformation to the actual automated election process and related cybersecurity issues and threats that can shape, sway, and even possibly manipulate the results if the average Filipino, that's you and me, are not vigilant about cyber threats.
Average talaga. I don't really understand
anything
tech
but
kasi,
anything but average.
Yeah. Okay.
In your case.
Well, before we go to our guests on the show, let's go speak first to our correspondent Melissa Lopez, who covers the COMELEC beat, the Commission on Elections beat. Melissa, what is the latest on the COMELEC's preparations for the May 9, 2022 polls to ensure its integrity? Mel?
Pia, Paolo, Commissioner Marlon Casquejo says measures are in place to beef up security protocols of COMELEC's physical and digital systems. Casquejo, who is a computer engineer and lawyer, heads the steering committee for all preparations for the May 9 polls. He again denies that the COMELEC was hacked, contrary to a news report last January.
Our system, our preparation is a standalone system. There is no way that anyone can go into that system without getting inside the memory configuration room. We are very confident that our system was never been hacked and can never be hacked unless you go inside, you pass through the security of the Santa Rosa gate.
$5 million registered voters were compromised. Casquejo says the hacking incident reported by Manila Bulletin did not happen after a thorough check of their physical and digital access logs. The data supposedly stolen did not exist either. Securing the ballots, voting machines, and other election materials is another concern. But COMELEC says its security teams, along with police, are on top of the situation. Here at the National Printing Office, prior coordination is needed before journalists and even representatives of political parties are allowed entry to view the ballot printing process.
This is part of our program for complete transparency, subject only to the limitation that we will not allow to compromise the security of the ballot and the configurations of the SD cards. Otherwise, we will allow your full access to the activities of the Commission on National Elections.
Anyone taking photos or videos at the NPO are also not allowed to zoom in on the actual ballot, so no one will gain access to the QR code, ballot numbers, and security features to prevent the illegal reproduction of the ballot. Over to you at the studio.
Well, who has access to these COMELEC servers, and will media be given a chance to visit them?
Right, Pia, security is
even tighter in those servers which are located or scattered around Metro Manila and in Laguna. So far, COMELEC has only offered a virtual walkthroughs for later this month, and that's to keep the security protocols intact. Back to you, Pia and Paolo.
Melissa Lopez, they're joining us from the, if I'm not mistaken, the National Printing Office, no, in Quezon City. Well, Paolo, of course, this is a big concern for us because I remember 2016, I was here in the studio at night, no, and nagbibilang ng boto, biglang tumigil, and everybody, that's history already. But anyway, our first guest, yeah.
I was just going to say, let's hope it doesn't repeat itself.
Yeah, and that's why there's so much concern, and that's why we're doing this special episode tonight. So our first guest for tonight is the spokesperson of the COMELEC, James Jimenez. James, thank you very much for being with us. Can you give us first an update on this alleged hacking of your servers? Of course, you say that this did not happen, right?
Yes, in fact, thank you very much for having me here. In fact, the fact that this hacking did not happen has been settled by very many experts. The CICT has said it, the DICT has said it, the NPC has said it, the NBI has said it. So that's the only update there is. This hacking did not happen. It was simply a bum steer. In fact, the group that was identified as having supposedly hacked the COMELEC themselves said that they were not hacking the COMELEC, that they were in fact hacking someone else. So just to be very clear about this, the COMELEC has not been hacked recently. It has not been hacked. Not like what happened in 2016 when we admitted freely that there was a hack that went on. But we moved on from that. We secured our systems, we strengthened our defenses, and now we're very confident in saying, as you saw Commissioner Marlon say, that we have not been hacked.
Well, that's interesting, James. You said they were hacking someone else, another government organization.
That's what they're saying. That's what they're saying. And
Oh
in
my
fact, that's what other experts are now looking at. The possibility that a third party is in fact being hacked. And that investigation is ongoing.
Okay, well, James, just how vulnerable at this point is our electoral process to cyber attacks and cyber crimes? I mean, 2016 was obviously a year of learning. You're open to admit that there were some lapses there and some learnings. But I'm sure in 2016 we felt that we perhaps had an airtight system and airtight security. How confident are we at this point?
Sure, Paolo. But before I go into that question, I'd like to clarify. Even in 2016, we said that the hack did not impact the integrity of the elections. And the reason for this is that our elections are not online. They are not susceptible to hacking. They are, in fact, around, I would say, 95% offline. They do not happen on the internet. And therefore, they are not that susceptible to hacking. And the same is true today. The same is true today because even now, what our system really does is we have automated counting, which means that all of the counting is done on site, but not on the internet. The only vulnerability, the only point of vulnerability that could be considered as existing right now is that moment when you transmit the election results from the precinct to the municipal canvassing station. However, even then, if the transmission is somehow stopped or corrupted, there are many redundancies that will allow us to recover the actual results, if that is what we want to do, or even to quarantine the results so that they no longer form part of the election results. This makes our system very secure.
So in other words, kahit merong mag-attempt na to hijack the transmission of data, let's say from a municipality to the provincial board of canvassers, you have all these safeguards in
Exactly. We can recover the data if it is hacked, and we can make sure that any other data that is affected is effectively quarantined so it doesn't impact the final result.
James, a question naman ngayon about all these text messages. Ang daming natatanggap, practically everybody, ang daming natatanggap ng mga text messages supporting, endorsing a presidential candidate. Sometimes there is misinformation that is spread on another candidate. Now, why is this happening, and how should voters take these messages? And what do we do? Ignore and delete? What?
Ignore and delete is the best solution because this is spam text. Ito ay text blaster ang ginagamit ng mga political operatives na yan. And text blasters have been around for the longest time. In fact, ang NTC merong mga regulations patungkol sa text blasting. The proper enforcement body here is, I would suppose, the NTC, not the COMELEC. Unfortunately, ginagamit ito for political purposes now. But think back a little bit and you will realize that this same tactic is being used for other purposes. It's being used for spreading disinformation during calamities. It is being used to spread disinformation about financial scams, etc. So this is a wide-ranging problem. It's been a problem for quite some time, and it really boils down to spamming, right? You have someone with a text blaster, and they're spamming people left and right.
Well, here's the question, though, James. I mean, you already mentioned the NTC. Whose job is it to how would you say locate these spam blasters, these text blasters? But is it your job to put some sort of sanctions, towards those who are benefiting from it?
I would say not. The COMELEC manages elections. It doesn't manage the NTC. It doesn't manage the airwaves, essentially, right? And again, enforcement, we believe, falls on another agency, not the COMELEC. It is unfortunate that it is being used for political purposes, but this does not make it a COMELEC enforcement matter. In any case, COMELEC is not designed to enforce things like this. No, we don't have the capabilities to handle things like text blasters. In fact, sometimes we get victimized by these text blasters as well when people start spreading misinformation about the COMELEC in its operations. I don't know if you remember, but during the filing of COCs, we had this huge text blast that was basically confined to the filing area. So yeah, even us, we do get blindsided by that sometimes.
All right. Well, I mean, you already talked about the rampant misinformation and disinformation on social media. How are you countering this, and how are we as end users and receivers of digesting this misinformation? How should we be countering it?
Right. Well, the most effective way forward that we found really is to cooperate with social media channels, because social media really is the biggest artery of misinformation. We talk to them, we cooperate with them. We're on a whitelist with several social media companies, and this allows us to take down fake news rather quickly. Much quicker, I would say, than an average person could manage. But beyond that, it's really a matter of educating the public and educating them about their media consumption habits. It's very important that the fight against fake news begins with the individual rejecting fake news, with the individual refusing to let fake news thrive within their social spaces.
And by answering that question of Paolo, James also did answer the question I was going to ask about how people can distinguish fact from fake news, fact from false information. So, James Jimenez, thanks so much for being with us. But you are going to be joining us in the last segment of the show. Salamat, James Jimenez.
Right,
we'll be back
Thank you.
after a quick break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. This is Politics as Usual, a special episode tonight on cybersecurity attacks. And with me is my guest co-anchor, Paolo Abrera. Our second guest, technology editor at Manila Bulletin and cybersecurity analyst, Art Samaniego. Before anything else, Art, may tatanungin lang ako. Kamusta na yung kalahating milyon sa Las Piñas?
No, the PNP clarified that statement. They said hundreds of thousands. Not
Okay.
500,000.
Okay. Oh, kasi yung kalahating milyon, ang daming nagsabi, mga netizens, paano naging kalahating milyon yan? 350,000 plus lang yung registered voters, as yung population of 500,000. But anyway, of course, hindi yan ang pag-usap.
Yeah. 590,000.
590. So medyo nadagdagan lang ng 10,000. Anyway, Art, sorry, pasensya ka na. Okay, pinag-usapan naman natin ngayong gabi yung cybersecurity. No? So, syempre ang tanong is, why is the Philippines tama ba yung word, a laggard, lagging behind when it comes to cybersecurity. And it's funny, we're supposed to be the social media capital of the world. Everybody's on a gadget, your phone, your smartphone, your iPad, your Mac, your laptop. Pero bakit tayo ganito? What's going on?
No, I don't agree to that statement because the Philippines is not lagging when it comes to cybersecurity. We have talents here in the Philippines na mga cybersecurity experts talaga na ginagawa pa consultant ng mga taga-ibang bansa. So we are not lagging in terms of cybersecurity.
So we're not lagging, but if they say we are the fourth most cyber attack country in the world, and just 4 or 5 years back we were number 17 in the ranking. So paano yun? How are we supposed to understand that?
That's just a study from Kaspersky. Kaspersky is an antivirus company, a security company that came out with that study. Pero other study says, no, wala tayo sa top 10.
Okay, wala tayo sa top 10.
So it's
Nasaan
just a study
tayo?
of one company. Pero yun nga, Kaspersky kasi is also a really reliable security software na ginagamit din ng mga Pilipino. So ang na-test lang nila yung mga users ng Kaspersky.
Okay. Ano yung how tough are our laws against cyber criminals?
Okay naman yung law natin. We have the Cybercrime Prevention Act of 2012, which is being enforced now. And also, I have worked with the NBI and the DICT when it comes to cybersecurity. We have a really capable law enforcement agencies that could track these hackers or these cyber criminals.
Okay, so it doesn't apply when, di ba, ang sinasabi palagi, ang Pilipinas ang daming batas, ang gaganda ng mga batas, ang problema natin implementation. Hindi naman.
Hindi naman. Kasi look like what the NBI Cybercrime Division is doing now. They arrest a lot of cyber criminals now. Yung iba hindi nga nababalita because these are high level arrests.
Okay.
Well, Art, let's take a step back and just for our appreciation, let's frame it this way. One of the most common forms of cybercrime is, we'll call it under the general umbrella of hacking. What do you think are the motivations for hacking? Is it bragging rights among these hackers? Is it a lucrative business? Bakit nga ba nangyayari ang hacking?
Ano yun? Depende kasi sa motive nung attacker. So we have different kinds of hackers, and yung motive nila, yung iba talagang gusto lang magyabang, yung iba they're really committing cybercrime. Magkaiba kasi yung cybercrime and cyber attack.
Let's talk about that.
So magkaiba yun. So merong difference yung dalawa. Yung mga cyber criminals, ang motive nila para kumita lang talaga. Meron namang iba, they want to be heard. Ito yung mga hacktivist. So activism through hacking. So yun yung mga motive nila. So depende sa motive ng hacker kung ano yung kakalabasan nung attack o yung attempt na gagawin nila.
Okay, well, whatever their motivations are, money or fame or bragging rights, the victims remain the same. It's always us. People and organizations need to protect themselves from these hackers. How can we best do that?
Ang naging problema ngayon, because of the pandemic, everyone has gone online. Pati yung mga hindi ready, yung mga tito at tita natin, so nag-o-online na sila. Ito yung sinasamantala ng mga cyber criminals. Alam nila na hindi ito marunong mag-computer, hindi ito marunong sa basic security when it comes to the internet. So they attack these poor internet users. Ito yung mga nabibiktima. This is the reason why more than 400% ang pagtaas ng cybercrime all over the world, hindi lang sa Pilipinas.
So business is good, I suppose. I mean, cyber hacking in general, that does pay off, and that's why hackers continue to be in the business of hacking.
Naabutan na ng hacking, naabutan na ng cybercrime ang kinikita ng drugs.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
So mas malaki na ang kinikita ng cybercrime ngayon kaysa dun sa drugs globally.
Interesting yung sinabi mo kanina lang, Art, no? And this is something people always say because of the pandemic, almost everyone, is online, no? And it's really interesting for me because technology is exactly what, before pre-pandemic, technology is what we felt kept us apart.
Yes.
And then with the pandemic, now it is exactly the thing that keeps us together,
connected.
which is abused also.
Yeah.
Diba?
And it became a very, how would you call it? It became a very open door. We took our work with us at home, and I think all of the connection protocols, once there is that electronic handshake between your workplace and the way you work at home, given your workstation, suddenly all the doors are open to sensitive information here in your workplace, and possibly this could have possibly been what has happened in some of these other organizations.
Yeah. If it's okay, Paolo, I wanted to ask Art, kasi di ba sabi mo, Art, di ba, yung mga tito at tita na biglang napasabak sa internet, parang gulo parang laban. And you were saying, it's important that we protect ourselves, no? Because we have smartphones, but we're not very smart, no? So, how do we...
Balikan natin yon. How do we do it, Art? Paano nga ba?
So,
kailangan bang mag-aral din kami ng gadget? Ganun ba?
Yun lang, very, very basic. What you do in real life, dapat yun din gawin mo sa digital life. So you don't just give your home address to anybody. You don't give your password to anybody who will say na, oy, taga-bangko ako, kailangan ko ng password mo. Hindi mo na yung ginagawa sa real life. Dapat, hindi mo din yung ginagawa sa digital life mo. So you need to be very careful in oversharing. Ito yung naging problema natin ngayon, oversharing ng information. So masyado kang maraming information na sinishare, mas madaling manakaw yung identity mo.
May oversharing sa social media.
People are clicking links everywhere. Pag may pinadala sa kanila, nagkiklik agad.
Ganda ng advice.
Especially so-called Facebook supported scams. Ito yung mga ads sa Facebook na nagsasabi na you click this, you will win something.
Yeah.
Right. The weakest link I think is always the human factor.
Naloloko sila. So ito yung ang tawag dito, ito yung mga phishing attacks, phishing attempts. And it's also called social engineering, nabola ka. Kung sa tunay na buhay, tawag doon, nabudol ka.
Digital budol. Pao.
Digital budol. Art, the subject of white hackers or white hats, often comes up as somebody or people, specialists who will show us the vulnerabilities of these systems, put them to the test, so to speak. Help us appreciate who they are and what role they play in cybersecurity.
Yeah. Kasi calling someone just a hacker is really ambiguous. So, marami kasing types of hacker. So, may mga traditional hackers tayo na tinatawag. Ito yung black hat. These are the bad guys who would like to steal your identity, who would like to steal information from you, tapos nanakawin yung pera mo. Ang tawag dyan, mga black hats. The second one is the white hat hackers. Ito yung complete opposite ng black hat hackers. So, they will never harm your system. They will help you secure your system. They will ask permission from you before they will attempt to check your system. So ito yung mga tumutulong sa atin. And usually, companies pay for their services. So ito yung white hat hackers. Pero meron din tinatawag na gray hat hackers. Ito yung mga hacktivists. So they're in between the black and the white hat. So these are really the dangerous ones because sometimes they will just attack your system and then expose your system's vulnerability for the benefit of the common good.
It sounds like a little bit of a
So
get out
those
of
are the
jail card.
three types of hackers. Yun yung traditional hackers.
Okay, well, are they? How do we differentiate then? I mean, aside from the fact that you may receive, how would you call it, notice from a white hat hacker, humihingi ng permiso. I'm going to test your system.
Yeah. Siguro naman they don't have calling cards.
Well, because I was going to say it sounds
white hacker, black
hacker, and gray hacker, because a gray hat sounds like a get out of jail card.
Merong ano? Sorry, Art?
Meron ganyang services.
Yung
Mga
white.
companies would like to help you to secure your system.
Yeah.
So yan yung mga ginagawa ngayon.
Yun yung mga legit.
Pero yun nga,
yung mga legit.
Yun yung mga legit. Pero yun nga, at first, mukha silang white hat hackers, pero once na they want to get something from you, in return na, we will expose you if you will not pay us. We will expose your system to the public.
So it's a ransom
Hindi na
attack.
sila white hat. They're black hats.
Once they've gotten
Pero
in
mga
there.
label lang kasi ito, kasi meron din yung tinatawag na red hat hackers, blue
Red
hat hackers. The red hat hackers are the one paid by the government to do penetration testings.
Okay. Ano yung blue?
Blue are the good guys.
Okay.
Tasked to protect your system.
Blue
And then there's a
Ateneo.
green hackers. Ito yung mga bago. Ito yung mga bagong mga newbie. Pero yun nga, ang traditional way to identify or to differentiate hackers, yun yung black, the white, and the gray hats.
Okay. I think we are through with Art Samaniego. But Art, you're going to be joining us in the last segment of the show, okay? Thank you very much for being with us tonight. We'll see you later. Up next, we'll talk about ways to counter cyber attacks. This is Politics as Usual. Be right back. If the Philippines is the fourth most cyber-attacked country in the world,
First on radio, DZKI-IRIGA welcomes CNN Philippines to bring you the latest news you can use, news you can trust. Listen to Newsnight, weekdays, 6 p.m.
we now go above and beyond the headlines.
Followed by Med Talk, Health Talk.
We'll talk about how to keep ourselves healthy during the pandemic.
Politics as usual.
In this country, not everything really goes according to plan, and politics is as usual.
Up close and more. Catch CNN Philippines Hour on DZKI-IRIGA. Weekdays, 6 to 7 p.m.
Sa pagpili ng liderato, laging tatandaan, dapat nasa kanya lahat ng katangian na maka-Pilipinas. Taong may respeto sa buhay at pamilya, makabuluhan at matinoong pamumuhay. Siya yung makapagtataguyod ng kabutihang panlahat, di mangiiwan, makakasama ang lahat. Malinaw ang pananaw sa makabagong bukas, makatwiran at patas pakisama, at higit sa lahat, maka-Diyos siya dapat. Sa pagpili ng liderato, laging tatandaan, dapat nasa kanya lahat ng katangian, ng maka-Pilipinas, maka-Pilipinas.
Gabayan ng Pilipinong bumoto ng responsable. Yan naman ang aming
Panatang Maka-Pilipinas.
Iboboto ko, Maka-Pilipinas.
Makabayan sa lupang sinilangan.
Makataot may respeto sa buhay at pamilya.
Siya ay makatwiran at patas makisama.
masigasig tumulong makaahon ang bawat isa.
Makatarungan, makalingat, maalalahanin sa kapwa.
Makakasama ang lahat, siya'y di mangiiwan.
Siya ay makapagtataguyod ng kabutihang panlahat.
Siya ay makabatas.
Siya ay makatotoo.
Siya ay may malinaw na pananaw para sa makabagong bukas.
Higit sa lahat, siya ay makadiyos.
Kaya't ayaw niya ng karahasan. Siya'y makakapayapaan.
Iboboto ko ang isang tao na makakalayaan.
Isang leader na makakalikasan.
Isang Pilipinong makabuluhan at matino ang pamumuhay.
Sa isip, sa salita, at sa gawa.
Gabayan ang Pilipinong bumoto ng responsable. Yan naman ang aming panata sa PPCRV.
Hindi sa'yo yan, hindi sa'yo yan.
Hindi sa'yo yan.
Maliit man o malaki, ang korupsyon ay korupsyon. Kapag hinayaan, sisirain nito ang kinabukasan ng bayan. Kaya maglakas loob sumigaw ng
Hindi sa'yo yan, hindi sa'yo yan.
Hindi sa'yo yan.
hindi sa'yo yan.
To report about corruption, please contact DOJ Action Center at dojAC@doj.gov.ph.
CNN Philippines Hour sa RPN-DZKI-IRIGA alas 6 hasta alas 7 ng manggi, Lunes hanggang Biyernes. CNN Philippines Hour.